Hi Maisie, I just watched Emilia Pérez and it's a movie. Let's talk about it. So I was gonna read the synopsis or the log line for the movie, right, from Letterboxd, but I don't think it does it justice. So I'm gonna read what Letterboxd says, and then I'm gonna read what another synopsis of the movie is. So this is the Letterboxd one. Rita, an underrated lawyer working for a large law firm, more interested in getting criminals out of jail than bringing them to justice, is hired by the leader of a criminal organization. All right. That's not bad. Here's a more accurate description of the movie. Emilia Pérez follows four remarkable women in Mexico, each pursuing their own happiness. Cartel leader Emilia enlists unappreciated lawyer Rita to help her fake her death so that she can finally live authentically as her true self. That's a little more accurate to what the movie is. So this movie stars Zoe Saldana, Selena Gomez, Carla Sofia Gascon, I hope I said that right, as Emilia Pérez, Adrian Paz, Edgar Ramirez, and, oh man, it's directed by, I hope I don't butcher this name too, Jacques Audiard. I'm unfamiliar with Jacques' work. So this movie is currently streaming on Netflix, and because Netflix hates movie theaters, I doubt you're gonna see this in a movie theater. Even if you do get that opportunity, I might would just wait a moment. So a little bit of context with this movie. This movie actually came out a while ago, but it's recently gotten back into the buzz, into the pop culture, into media, because the Oscars are right around the corner. This past week, the Oscars released their nominations for the year, and who led the charge? Emilia Pérez with 13 nominations. That should mean it's a pretty great movie, right? Well, to a lot of people, not exactly. Emilia Pérez has become this year's Oscar bad guy. Now, usually every year there's an Oscar bad guy. Sometimes it's manufactured, other times it just kind of happens. Like last year's was Bradley Cooper's Maestro. It's not necessarily a bad movie, and I didn't even really think it was that much of a Oscar baiting movie, but it became the movie everyone was like, that needs to lose, which that could be a whole video on itself. Why does that happen to movies? I could go into that. I, unfortunately, diving into Emilia Pérez, only heard negative things. This movie is pretty hated. It seems like it's pretty criticized for its depiction of Mexico, gang violence, heavily criticized by members of the trans community, because that is a major part of the film, which this isn't a spoiler, so I'll just go ahead and dive into that in case the log lines in the synopsis weren't clear. This lawyer is actually kidnapped by a cartel boss who hires her to go find a surgeon who can help the cartel boss transition into being a woman. So the cartel boss fakes their death, transitions, and 4 years later, after recovery and all of that, Emilia Pérez is in the world. I tried so hard to go into this movie with an open mind. I knew there was a bunch of negative reception, especially from people I very much respect. I watch a lot of their reviews. I read a lot of their articles. I was doing my best going into this to try and filter that out and say, okay, let's sit down, watch this for what this is, and judge it based on that. And I don't know that did much for my viewing experience. A lot of people are making this out to be like the worst movie in the world. It's not. It's not even close to the worst movie in the world. It's just cheap. I think that's the best way I would describe this movie. It touches on a lot of interesting themes and topics, but disregards them and doesn't really do anything else. Oh my gosh, I don't even know how I forgot to mention this. Maisie. This is a musical, by the way. Emilia Pérez is a Spanish musical, which, by the way, has one of the maybe greatest songs ever. And that song wasn't nominated for one of the Oscars, but I find it interesting that this musical, which, by the way, is not a great musical, just so happens to get nominated the year the Oscars are not gonna do the Best Original Song performances. Because listen to these lyrics. So I don't sing. I know you sing. I don't. So I'm just gonna read off these lyrics. This is between the doctor and the lawyer. So this is the lawyer first. Hello, very nice to meet you. I'd like to know about sex change operation. The doctor responds, man to woman or woman to man. The lawyer responds, man to woman. And then the doctor goes from penis to vagina. It's the same lyrical style as Hamilton, if that makes sense. I'm not a music person, so I'm having trouble describing this. But where Hamilton sometimes sounds good and most of the time obnoxious, this movie, the musical moments are just obnoxious all the time. This movie, if you love the musical Rent, there's no reason you should hate this movie. This musical is for you. I hate Rent. So what does that say about me with this movie? But like I said, there's some really interesting ideas in here. Being captured by a cartel boss and being presented with this wild scenario of they are wanting to leave this life, transition into a woman, and kind of try and turn over a new leaf. That can be interesting. And this movie actually does something I thought was going to go down a very interesting path. There's a subplot in the movie with Selena Gomez. Oh my God, Selena Gomez. Oh my God, how could I forget? We'll put a pin in that. Because the cartel boss needs to fake a death, Emilia Pérez, who is the cartel boss, sends her family to Switzerland. But Selena Gomez's character is under the impression that her husband is dead and the kids, they lost their father. And there's a part in the movie where they eventually are reunited, but they have no idea Emilia Pérez is their old father or husband, right? It looked like there was gonna be a really interesting part of this movie where they were kind of gonna address, how does this affect the kids? And it's touched, kind of. They kind of touch on that. It's more like they poke it and then disregard it for the rest of the movie. And in that particular scene where they're addressing how that affects a child, it's a musical number, of course, but here's where it starts getting a little bit strange. And I start seeing why a lot of aspects of this movie are criticized. This kid is singing about how Emilia Pérez smells like their dad. And the kid likes it because it reminds that kid of their dad. Then proceeds to start listing off the wildest descriptions that even made me kind of go, is that racist? For extra context, this is directed by a French man. This is mainly filmed, I believe, in France, in a French studio. Not really even in Mexico. So you kind of get a lot of that in the movie too, where there's a lot of emphasis on Mexico, very bad. All men in Mexico, very, very bad. If you can, move out of Mexico. It is not a very glamorous life. That message is hounded in over and over again. And it's like, I don't know that that's entirely true. Oh man, talking about this movie is a chore. Let's talk about performances. Okay, Selena Gomez. Abysmal. CW range of acting is the way I heard it described in one comment section. One of the Oscar nominations is currently going for Zoe Saldana. She's one of the leads in this movie, and she's actually pretty great. She makes this dialogue, she makes this script work for her. She is trying her best, and she is giving a great performance in a very not great movie. So there's a part of me that's like, you getting an Oscar nom? Yeah, you had to make George Lucas level of dialogue work. I respect you for that. But even abysmal script aside, she gives a pretty great performance. And then Carla Sofia as Emilia Pérez, I would even say did a really good job. I don't know that one was Oscar worthy, but at the same time, I also have never seen her in any other media or anything like that. So I don't know what the full range is. And unfortunately, this movie doesn't give Carla a lot of range to play with. I guess the same could have been said for Zoe, but Zoe actually does pretty great with what's given. So I don't know. I'm trying so hard to think of other things I like. I wasn't really a fan of the editing, which it got an Oscar nomination for, by the way. I guess I could say I like the look of the movie. I wouldn't say it's anything to win an Oscar about, which it's nominated for in that category as well. But it's like if a videographer transitioned into making movies. Like, it has a really pretty videographer look to it. It does, like, very digital. It looks like digital cinematography, which is fine. It's not bad. It's not great. It's just, it works. It's a thing that works. This review has been a lot of rambling and probably a little bit nonsensical, but that's kind of what my viewing experience of this movie felt like. It goes all over the place. The pacing is like a roller coaster. And I several times had to check my subtitles because I was like, is this translating right? Is this the actual lyrics for the songs? Yes. So very early on in the movie, there's a song where the lawyer character, Rita, is singing. So the lawyer is singing her song, and all the people in the background are singing the most random things, like vacuum, rag, soap. Like, they're just naming things. And I was like, surely my subtitles are wrong. No, they're correct. So, Maisie, should you watch this movie? I'm gonna give it a pass. I don't think it really adds anything of value. That's it. I guess it could make for a fun drinking game if you drink responsibly. You're probably fine not watching this movie. If you're curious about keeping up with this year's Oscars race, which it is nominated for Best Picture, yes, maybe give the movie a watch for yourself. You might like it more, you might hate it as much as I do. I wouldn't even say I hate it, it's just not a good movie. There's other movies worse than this. Like, people say this is the worst movie of all time. There are movies way worse than this. I think the only reason people are getting extra frustrated with this movie is because it's being glorified as this incredible piece of art in all of these awards. If this movie wasn't getting all of this kind of praise for like the Oscars and any other awards it's winning currently, I think people would just kind of view it as like, that's a weird movie. It's just a movie. Not a great one, it's just a movie. But unfortunately, it is in the award season, and so it's getting brought up to these new heights, and people are very vocal about this is not a great movie. So anyways, have you seen Emilia Pérez? If so, let me know in the comments. What did you think? I would actually like to hear what other people think, and if they did like the movie, I would like to hear why. Yeah, please. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you at the movies.